Okay, happy Saturday, everybody. We are back once again in New York City. You know, it actually was a pretty nice day out today in New York. Not too bad, not too hot, not too cold, probably about 65 degrees. But we have a lot to talk about. It's not going to be a too conclusive and too focused stream on the markets. Obviously, on Friday, we did not get a chance to stream. I was traveling from Miami back to New York, but markets, boy, did they get hammered. Looks like the Dow Jones Industrial Average was down about 950 points. The S&P 500 also down markedly. And the NASDAQ taking the most of the beating, obviously, probably because interest rates are continuing to climb. I think as of about 4 o'clock when markets closed, we had the 10-year Treasury yield at 2.9%, which is definitely putting some pressure on a lot of those tech stocks. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about some of the action that's going on with Elon Musk. We're going to do a little bit of a markets a look ahead stream tonight because I'm not sure if I'm going to be streaming tomorrow. So we're going to be talking about Microsoft. You know, a lot of analysts on Wall Street are projecting or predicting that there's going to be a lot of slowing in that Office 365 offering. I'm not so sure about that. We're going to talk about it and more tonight on the stream. But guys, let's see who we have here in the chat. We have Bianca M, the ABX girl. Good to see you. The one and only Otto is here. Good afternoon, Otto. Hopefully your weekend is going great. I see Rick. This is good evening. Tone Rick, welcome. Ibrahim Azam. This is I am here. Hey, Ibrahim, buy the books is Yo Tom. Solo 401, what's up? Solo, we're actually going to see your favorite building tonight. So it's good to see you, Solo 401. Hope you and your family are well. Bernard Friedman, good to see you. Says I knew you were going to be in Manhattan. Dodie says hello, dear Tom. Good to see you, my friend. Chris Beeman. Hey, Chris. Hope you're well. 812 says hola. Tom Dutchman is here. Welcome. Gregory says back in New York. Hey, good evening. Yes, we're back in New York. At first, you know, I really wasn't too excited about it, but weather's been pretty nice. Not gonna lie, weather's been pretty nice. So I guess I'll start off by saying where we're at. So we're very close to St. Mark's Place down here near NYU. I think we're gonna take a little bit of a walk around Washington Square Park. Probably will be a lot of people out tonight, a lot of skateboarders, beautiful flowers finally starting to bloom here. Dieter says, when are you back in Miami? Not sure. Dodie says, I love how you read each comment. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Much appreciated. Ibrahim Azam says, hey Tom, it's good to see you back in New York. Thank you, Ibrahim, for the warm welcome back. So this is Cooper Union, which is a very, very good school down here near St. Mark's Place. And one of the interesting things you guys will notice about tonight is if we ever walk down St. Mark's, which I think we'll probably do tonight, everything is blocked off, which I think is actually pretty good. So let me rephrase that. It's blocked off to a lot of the cars. So people could just walk and not have to worry about getting hammered by a car. Lena Sandoval is here. Hey, Lena. Says, hey, Tom. Sally is here. Says, beautiful view, Tom. Good to see you. Hope everybody's weekend is off to a good start. GGNYC says, Tom, back in the city. All right. Well, thank you for the warm welcome back, Gigi. I do appreciate it. My good friend Sinjib says, hey, Tom, how are you? And happy Saturday from Montreal. Well, Sinjib, happy Saturday to you. And hopefully I'll be making my way over to Canada sometime during the summer. So please stay tuned for that. Hopefully we'll be able to do a Montreal and a Toronto stream this summer. So I'm looking forward to that. Haven't been to Canada since I was a little kid, and I was actually planning to go to Toronto in 2020 with a couple of my friends, but obviously, you know, we all know what happened in 2020. So hopefully I could get a chance to go back to Toronto. Great city, good city. WW is here. Hey, WW. Happy Saturday to you. Finally, beautiful weather in New York. The Investigator is here. Says, walks on Wall Street. I love your hustle. Nice to see you. Well, thank you, The Investigator. Hopefully your your weekend's off to a good start. You know, I spent a lot of time in the East Village bookstore, and I was able to find a really, really rare book about Japanese candlesticks. Now, I'm not sure if anybody's familiar. It's sort of like, I wouldn't say it's a lost art, but, you know, back in the day, you know, every time if you think about us looking at stock charts now, very seldom back in the day did analysts on Wall Street or chartists actually look at sort of candlestick patterns. That actually was sort of very rare. But now almost everything is, every chart you look at on Bloomberg, on TradingView, pretty much everybody uses the standard candlestick patterns now, which I think is pretty cool. And I think one of the reasons for that is because when you look at a candlestick chart, you see a little bit more detailed and conclusive data. So for example, on a candlestick, the data that you will see is the high of the day, the low of the day, where the particular stock or indice closed, and where the particular stock or indice opened. And I think the theory behind this, as we look at the Empire State Building, the theory behind this is we could see the market participants in real time. So let's say if the market opened really high and then closed at the dead low of the day, well, we could probably assume that sellers have taken over the market and that selling could potentially presume or resume into the next trading day. So I was able to pick up that book for about $10. But I'm not sure if the people that own that bookstore really know too much about old finance books, because that's it's worth about $115 easy. So I think I'm going to add that to the collection. I just want to let you guys know about that. Hey, super friends in the city, Fernando is here. Good to see you, Fernando, my good friend. Welcome. Happy to be back in New York. Hey, NNB045 says, welcome back to New York City, Tom, and happy Saturday night. Thank you. Appreciate it, NNB045. I see my good moderator, Michelle McGraw, and Miss Brown Eyes. This is happy Saturday. Good to see you, Miss Brown Eyes. So I think we're going to do a quick walk around Washington Square Park. CB Earth Day 2070. Good to see you. You know, I think yesterday was Earth Day, wasn't it? So we don't have the microphone tonight, but I don't think it's going to be too windy. But if we do hit into locations where it is windy, I apologize. We'll just have to deal with the wind noise tonight because I did forget the mic. Jason Francis is here. 3030 Tom. This is Walks in Wall Street. Happy Saturday. Thank you. I hope you're having a good weekend as well. Hey, Demtix is here. Good to see you. And I see our good moderator, Laytha. Good to see you, Laytha. Jeannie Price. Good evening, Tom. Lena Sandoval. Good to see everybody. Fernando. WW says, I only learned about candlesticks when I was curious about Forex a while ago. Yeah. So it's interesting. I think that if you read the book, it's very, very hard to get your hands on. The book is called Japanese Candlesticks. I posted it on my Twitter. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, sometimes I post finance and equity research and things like that. If you follow @Walks Wall Street on Twitter there. But you guys could download the PDF of the Candlestick book for free. So if you type in Japanese Candlestick PDF, there's tons of free downloads. But it's very hard actually to find the physical copy. So I just thought I'd pick that up. But yeah, WW, you're 100% right. I see Samantha R. Good to see you, Samantha R. You know, I think we're gonna make a left on Lafayette Street. I wanna walk a little bit towards Soho before we head back uptown towards Midtown, because it is my first day back in New York and I want to check out some of the restaurants down here. You know, it's Saturday night in New York and the weather's beautiful. So I think a lot of people are gonna be out. Hey, Alan Wilson is here. Good to see you, Alan. So Tom, let me be the first to ask, when are you going back to Miami? Alan Wilson, somebody actually beat you to the punch. I think within 1 minute of the stream, somebody asked that, but in all seriousness, I'm not too sure. It's probably gonna be about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks, depending on how well my meetings go. So if the meetings go horrible and horrendous, I'll be back in Miami before you know it. But if things go well, which I'm hoping they will, maybe I'll be here for about 2 weeks. but we'll see. Although Alan, I do have to go to Philadelphia, so I got to go to Philly, but that's to be determined, and I'll let you guys know. I really want to try to stream from Philly, because as you guys know, last time even though I went to Philly, I wasn't able to stream. WW says, hey Tom, personally, I'm glad you're back in New York. Thank you, WW. Jonathan Richards is here. Good to see you, Jonathan. Says, good evening, Tom. Hope you had a productive week. I did. Talk about a crazy week, though, Jonathan. I mean, aside from, me being in tech sales, it was very busy on that front. But also, I mean, we are in the brink of earnings season, and with Tesla earnings absolutely crushing, with the tail end of all the financials wrapping up. Just a busy week, and next week is not going to be any less busy, let me tell you that. Microsoft is reporting earnings, and now we are headed into the thick of all the semiconductor companies reporting earnings, and I think that's going to be a big one, because if you think about the semiconductors, a lot of these companies are actually supplying Apple with chips. But although, if we think about what happened with Intel, right? So Intel, what used to be a massive major supplier of chips to Apple, but let's just say that sort of didn't work out. There was a lot of complaints, especially around the MacBook Airs, the MacBook Pros, and Apple's actually taken a lot of that stuff in-house, and that sort of led me to purchase an iMac because of their new M1 chip. So the brand new Apple M1 chip is actually developed in-house. And let me just tell you, they are extremely fast. I'm not sure if anybody in the chat has purchased or has one of the new Macs with their M1 chip. And I actually have the lower grade model, and that thing is so fast, it's unreal. Hey, John L. What's up? This is Tom. Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, all the big tech stocks report next week. I know. John, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be a wild week. I was reading an analyst report, I think out of Goldman. I'll share it in the Discord if you guys want to join the Discord, but there's an analyst at Goldman Sachs that's really concerned in relation to Microsoft, their 365 offering. They think that a lot of that market is saturated. I'm not so sure about that, but we'll talk about that a little bit today. I'll show you guys a very famous cookie store here in Manhattan. But Microsoft is set to report fiscal Q3 earnings late Tuesday. Analysts are projecting earnings per share, or EPS, of about $2.19. That would be up 12% on sales of $49 billion. So think about that, $49 billion in sales in just one quarter. That's insane. That's probably going to be up about 17.5%. It wasn't a Goldman Sachs analyst, it was a UBS analyst. So an analyst at a UBS said commercial Office 365 revenue growth might start to decelerate given the majority of the pull forward from the pandemic, which I agree and I disagree with that. Because if you think about what this particular UBS analyst is saying, he's like, due to the fact that during the pandemic, everybody was forced to work remote, a lot of the technology spend was pulled forward because, you needed ways to communicate with your team members. You couldn't be in the office, which I understand. But if you look at the, like a stock like Paychex, and this may not make sense at first, but let me explain my thought process here. A stock like Paychex, because I actually think they're reporting earnings next week. It's trading at near all-time record highs. And what does that tell me? That tells me that a lot of employers are starting to rehire or add new people to their company. So if you're hiring new people, don't you have to set them up with an email account, right? So I think that the hiring growth, and we're seeing this out of the jobs numbers too, all this hiring growth I think is going to spur more demand for Office 365 products. But that's just my personal opinion. But we'll see if we see any deceleration. Hey, Theresa Roberts, good to see you. Hope you're well. So this is actually my favorite building in Soho. Right in front of us. I see Layda, good to see you. Shay29 says, what's the name of the cookie store? I think it's called Levian. I always get the name wrong, but I think it's called Levian or Livian. Hey, George says, money never sleeps. Good to see you, George. Arum Z says, Kith. Yeah, we just passed the Kith store just a couple seconds ago. Arum Z says, please turn around. Yeah, that is the Kith store. Michelle McGraw, good to see you. Hey, Miss Brown Eyes, thank you so much for the $1.50 donation. Much appreciated. Yeah, GGNYC, that's it. That's the one. I think we just walked past it. When we go across the block, we'll see it again. But Miss Brown Eyes, thank you so much for the donation. Much appreciated. So check this out. I guess this is a new bakery here. It's called Funny Face Bakery. And I guess all the cookies have particular faces on them, which is kind of cool. Tom just walks on Wall Street. You should add Super Friends in the City as a mod. I did add him as a mod, but he didn't want. He says he didn't want it. Miss Brown Eyes, thank you so much for the $4 donation. Much appreciated. You're too kind. But Fernando, have you been down here? This place looks brand spanking new. I wonder if you went down here. Mets fan 1023 says, is this pre-recorded? Yes, this is a pre-recorded video. Daryl says, hello, Tom from Chicago. Good to see you, Daryl. So I think this is my favorite one right here. That's the guy from The Wolf of Wall Street. What do you guys think about these? These are pretty cool, actually. These are really cool. I think that's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Hey, Thomas says, Tom, do you see signs that New York City is turning back to normalcy, business tourism returning? Yeah, so I think so. Right? I mean, even though New York City has a lot of problems right now, I think slowly but surely things are turning back to normal. I'd say that. Yeah, being fair, I'd say slowly but surely. But here's the thing that's going to be a big, I don't really want to say issue, but let's call it a headwind. Let's call it a headwind. A lot of companies are still, the vast majority of them are fully remote. And if you look at a lot of the data from these big real estate investment trusts and these commercial real estate businesses, there's still not a lot of people that have fully returned back to the office. And I think in order for New York to have a full recovery, not just a recovery on Wall Street at the big investment banks and tech companies, but I'm talking about the small businesses, you're gonna need people to come into the city more often on weekdays, if that makes sense. Hey, Jeff says, Tom, did you study economics in your university or did you learn it on your own? You always seem to know what's going on at all times. Yeah, so I actually did study economics as a minor, so I did not major in it. My major was actually criminal justice with a minor in economics and a very, very slight forensic accounting classes. Thomas says, I think so too. How to get your people back. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what Mayor Eric Adams is trying to do, right? So Mayor Eric Adams met with a lot of the CEOs of the biggest employers here in New York City, and he was very blunt, which I actually agree with Mayor Eric Adams on here. I think she is from that show, The Squid Game, I think. But yeah, anyway, so I agree with Eric Adams on this, where he's like, look, Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Chase is the biggest employer in New York City. He's like, you got to bring your people back to the office, right? You got to bring them back. But here's the deal. If Jamie Dimon, at the drop of a hat, tells all of his investment bankers and retail bankers, sales and trading guys, hey, you guys have to come back to the office every day, well, they're just going to go work at another investment bank, right? So I think it's going to be very difficult to get people back in the office. But perhaps if everybody can be on the same page and adopt like a hybrid work environment, maybe that will work. But then again, I think the free market will take care of itself. And maybe that's just the new normal. Maybe the new normal is 100% remote. I mean, I'm just as productive working 100% remote as I am in person, but I do prefer to be in person. Hey, Jay is here. Good to see you, Jay. Says, do you believe I took off today? I don't believe that. You cleaned the barbecue grill. Awesome, Jay. Jay, I'm not sure if I told you, I actually bought a barbecue grill not too long ago. Hey, Dallas says, hey, Tom, good evening. Ibrahim Azam says, I wouldn't want to be in the office. I prefer a hybrid. Yeah, Ibrahim, I think a lot of people think exactly like you do. Time to love. Good to see you, my friend. WW says, people will only come back if everybody's wages are increased. It is a class battle right now. Yeah, that's another good point, WW. We talk about inflation a lot of the time, but very seldom do we talk about wage inflation. Check out this store here. Kind of cool. Hey, Sunshine NYC says, hey, hello, Tom. Good to see you, Sunshine NYC. Corey says, scared the people to stay home for 2 years, and just that they did a 360 and want the people back in the office. I know. Yeah, it's very hard for people to unlearn new habits. So if we are so accustomed to being in the office, being remote, like you said, it's going to be tough to bring people back. And that's sort of why, oh, check this out. This is kind of cool. So I think this is a tattoo place, but I always like looking at art here. Hey, War Walker says, we are so spoiled now. It will be a very difficult withdrawal, I know. Michelle K is here. Good to see you. Says, good evening, Tom. Good to see you. Thank you so much. Tom to Love says, hey, Tom, do you cook? Very seldom do I cook, but I do know how to cook. Bernard Friedman, Lizzie Hatch is here. The one and only Charlie Richardson. Good to see you, Charlie. Welcome. Arumzi says, Tom, hybrid for the win. Definitely feel I need to be in person for certain parts of my job, though. Yeah, that's true. NMB045 says, you can't tell people to come back to the office just for the sake of helping New York City businesses have more traffic. There has to be another internal company benefit for that. Agreed. Yeah, and so that's sort of where I've been. So NNB045, that's a very good point, because here's what I always say, and you guys hear me talk about this on the channel almost ad nauseum, right? We never sort of want to interfere with the free markets, and we never want to sort of, like, I like to call it stifle innovation to help us deal with the past. And what I mean by that is, yeah, some maybe small coffee shops and mom and pop shops and drugstores, maybe taking a hit. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of the commerce and things like that are going to be taking place online anyway. So maybe it's time for these businesses to take initiative to sort of transform and adapt their ways. And I know that's not the most popular thing to say, but I think you're right. Chris Beeman says, Tom, did you use your grill yet? I did use it. Manuel Garcia, good to see you, Manuel. Eugene says, hey, Tom, you're back in New York. So I am back in New York. We should be back for about 1 to 2 weeks, depending on a couple things, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Cynthia Beal, Arumzi says, Tom, it's much easier to close out deals and have important meetings in person than it is virtual, in my experience. So I agree and I disagree with you. So here's why I disagree a little bit. I think being virtual allows you to have naturally more reach, right? So if I'm running appointments in person, how many appointments realistically can I go to per day in person? Maybe 1 or 2, right? Maybe, I'm sitting down with the client, maybe I take him out to eat, buy him a cup of coffee, I have to take a cab crosstown, I have to take a taxi uptown, downtown. But if I'm remote, all I do is I could stack meeting makers up pretty much to the ceiling, back-to-back meeting makers all day. So I think the reach in terms of deal volume or deal flow is better remote, but I think the quality of a long-lasting relationship is probably in person. Check out this Dalmatian dog right here. Fantastic animal. I don't want to get too close to him though, because sometimes. Good to see you guys. Thank you. But those Dalmatians are fantastic. Alan Wilson says you used the grill and you didn't invite 900 of your closest friends. Well, we will soon, I promise. Yeah, Lather's like you never know with Dalmatians. Hey, Tamar's like, good evening from Texas. Good to see you. Hope you're well. Miguel says, hey Tom, what are your thoughts on investing in Bitcoin for the long term? So I would recommend this particular book. And the book is called The Bitcoin Standard. So before making an investment in Bitcoin or any sort of virtual currency, I'd probably read that book. For two main reasons. Number one, you should never make an investment in anything unless you really know about it. And number two, this particular book, The Bitcoin Standard, is not only a book about Bitcoin. It actually gives you a complete history of fiat currencies dating back to pretty much the beginning of time, from the bartering days. So check out that book, The Bitcoin Standard. I think you're gonna like it. Tons and tons of information about the rise and fall of traditional fiat currencies. JSB says, Tom, listen to David Morgan on Bitcoin scam. I will. Let me take a screenshot of that. Oop, let me take a screenshot. JSB, if you want to put anything in the chat, please do as well. No cucks allowed. It's a surprise no one has stolen the Dalmatian yet. I mean, there's probably 10 or 15 FDNY firefighters right there. So I'm not sure who in their right mind would try to steal a Dalmatian when you probably have 15 of the most strongest and... Yeah, let's just put it at that. Sunshine NYC, thank you. So real quick, guys, we're about to pass one of my favorite Egyptian restaurants actually in the city. I know I talk about it a lot, but now that the weather is not freezing, I think we could actually probably take a close-up look at it. It's called Zuba. Very good place. Extremely good. The food is good. The owners are very nice. Alan Wilson, good to see you. Yeah, Sunshine NYC is like, what a weird thing to steal a dog in front of 50 FDNY. Yeah, that probably won't go over too favorably for the person who tries to do that. Probably wouldn't go over too well. Let's just leave it at that. But what do you guys think of this crazy Twitter battle that Elon Musk and Bill Gates are having? I mean, talk about bizarre. So here we have Zuba right here. Very good spot. Highly, highly recommend it. So if anybody comes down here, I think this is Cleveland Street, I think. Cynthia Beal, good to see you. Asmarius is finally in New York. I really can't into the Miami walks. Brooklyn girl, thank you so much. Appreciate it. WW, welcome. Jay says, Tom, I'm sitting on my deck at 9:15 and it's 75 degrees in north central Ohio. Wow. That's fantastic. We got a little bit of a food delivery bicycle feud over there. So Zuba, Z-O-O-B-A, highly recommended. I also like the layout of the restaurant. So you can see directly inside, outside. Almost the entire place is like a window / outdoor eating area. Very good. Jeff says, do you think some type of regulation will be put in place to prevent large corporations from hoarding single family houses? So I don't think so. I don't think so, because that draws like a very, very, very fine line. Because essentially, if we think about what a corporation is, it's just a collective of people, right? So could there really potentially be a rule to tell someone you can't buy a piece of private property? Probably not. I mean, maybe there could be like zoning laws to say, hey, this particular home can't be rented, but even that is probably a far cry from reality. But what do you think? I know, so here's the only thing that, and this is even being disputed right now. If you think about short-term rentals, right? So let's say if you buy a house, for example, near Miami Beach, even though you own it, based upon the zoning regulation of that particular municipality, you're not allowed to do short-term rentals or something like that. So maybe they try to work in some backdoor regulation where they mix up and jumble the words to make it that if you're a large corporation, you can't rent out single-family homes unless you sign long-term leases, something like that. But even that's going to be really difficult. But I'd love to know your thoughts on that. I think it's a good question. What do you think? Well, speaking of that, Blackstone reported earnings last week. Fantastic results. And Steven Schwartzman, which we talk about all the time, right? Every time we walk past the New York Public Library, the main one on Fifth Avenue, we always talk about Steven Schwartzman. And he said that their goal at Blackstone, this looks like a pretty cool coffee shop. They said their goal at Blackstone is to have over $1 trillion in assets by 2026. And if we look at the breakdown of their capital allocation by sector, their real estate portfolio actually performed the best last quarter. And Blackstone is another one of those companies, BlackRock, Blackstone, that does own a lot of single-family real estate. Anna says, Little Italy, let's get some cannolis. You know, we actually have to turn back uptown. But maybe we'll check out more Little Italy tomorrow. But this is Broome Street and Mulberry. It seems like a lot more people are out. I think that since the weather's becoming a lot nicer, I think more people are outside, which I think is good. Jay says, do you think that your taxes are going to go up with the Disney thing? Probably not. I think that is very misunderstood. I think that's very misunderstood. And I think if taxes were to go up, it would probably be local taxes. And since I live in Miami, that would probably be more of an Orlando thing. Probably not a Miami thing. But if anything, if we think about that situation, and I'm not going to give my political opinion on it because the chat is going to go gangbusters. But if we think about that, what other company has such a special privilege as that? So putting politics aside, putting the bill aside about teaching, gender stuff, put that aside. Like what other company, and I'm curious, I actually don't know. But Disney has a pretty sweet deal in the state of Florida, right? Disney has a pretty sweet deal. Does any other corporation in any state have that type of deal? And I'm not asking that to be snarky. I'm actually curious because when I heard about that, first of all, I never even knew that Disney had such a lucrative deal there in Florida. I never knew that. Does any other corporation have a deal like that? A room Z? I'm not sure about that. Hey, Gian says, hello from Lima, Peru. Good to see everybody in Lima, Peru. Sunshine, New York City says, the malls were so crowded today. Which mall did you go to? Liz says, it just doesn't seem right for corporations to own single-family homes, which should be owned by, single families maybe. Yeah, I mean, Liz, I totally see your point. I'm not arguing with you there. It's definitely I want to be very careful with my word choices, but I guess I will say it's a problem to an extent. I think the only sort of fix, let's just say fix, I think there should be a clause within a lot of these real estate investment trusts that are specifically out to buy single family homes and then rent them out to make money off the cash flows. Maybe there should be some sort of a clause that says that within 12 years, you have to work out a deal where, one of your long-term tenants could structure a deal where it's a rent to own situation. something like that. But even then, I'm not sure of the legality of that would ever pass. But I do agree, because I think the United States is definitely turning into more of a renter nation. Because if you think about it, Liz, to your point, if you're competing with a BlackRock or a Blackstone to buy a house, and if I'm the seller, would I want to do a financing deal with a random person that probably is just barely making the down payment for that property? Or do I want to sell it to Blackstone or BlackRock that's going to slam the whole thing down in cash, right? So it sort of makes the individual buyer, to Liz's point, sort of not competitive. So I'm not sure. But if you look at the data and if you look at the statistics, single family rentals are actually quite a bit more lucrative than multifamily in some cases. Hey, Anna says, love the hustle and bustle of New York City. That's missing in Miami, Susanna. John L says, you're right, Liz, hedge funds are screwing up home buyers. Well, I mean, so I think the overarching theme is that people think that hedge funds and big institutions are the ones that are screwing single family home buyers. I think that's sort of like a band-aid on the problem. The big problem, if we're talking about macro, right, from a big macro perspective, we have to ask ourselves, okay, why are institutions so drawn towards single family homes? And my thought is the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve is solely responsible. This place is actually really good. It's called Goods for the Study. I actually bought some of my notebooks here that I use to write the Behind the Street newsletter. But anyway, so the Federal Reserve has been consistently buying not only mortgage-backed securities, but U.S. Treasuries. And obviously that we know, bond yields move inverse or have an inverse correlation to bond prices. So if the Federal Reserve is consistently putting a bid under the market, right, buying mortgage-backed securities, buying U.S. Treasuries, well, that's a way to artificially manipulate rates lower. And ever since 2008, we've been in an environment of artificially low interest rates. And that has really, really hurt the average working class person, because when they leave their money in a checking account or a savings account, they don't earn any yield on that. But hedge funds that can just raise a bunch of money, private equity, venture capital, they can just raise $200, $300 million off the bat and then go right into the market and essentially borrow money for free, right? They can borrow money at 2.75%. They could borrow money at 3%. But the average person, you can't do that, right? Because you're not well capitalized. You don't have the cash flows. You don't make as much money as these big institutions. So I think the overarching problem is not the big bad hedge funds. I think they're just playing the game that they're given, or playing the sort of the cards that they're dealt. I think the biggest problem is monetary policy and the Federal Reserve keeping interest rates near zero and essentially creating a society of corporate socialism. Samantha R says, oh my God, yes, the best stationery store in New York City. That place is really good. I love that place, Samantha R. WW's like, I'm listening intently. Liz, good to see you. Laytha says, the Kochs have been buying up real estate in places like Kansas. This is what billionaires do. Yeah, I mean, Laytha, you're 100% right. Anna, it's good to see you. Welcome. NMB 045 says they're attracted to single family homes because it's easy money with the low rates. Bingo, NMB 045. I can't argue with you there. Hey, Jared Covey is here. Hey, Jared. Patricia Ivory says hello. So on the topic of rates here, as we are on Prince Street, that 10-year U.S. Treasury yield the last time I looked, closed at about 2.98%. So what does that mean? Let me just cross the street here. So what does that mean? So if we're talking about real estate, and if we're talking more specifically about single family homes, the most important thing to watch is that 10-year US Treasury yield, because the 30-year fixed rate mortgage is really sorts of moves in lockstep with that 10-year US Treasury yield. And for the first time since 2011, this tree is absolutely gorgeous. For the first time since 2011, a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is above 5%. So that's actually probably going to put a little bit of pressure, hopefully, on the prices of single family homes, and maybe make it a little bit more affordable for people to buy. But here's where I sort of disagree with the vast majority of economists and analysts, is because everybody is so obsessed with looking at the monthly payment. Oh, can I afford a house because the monthly payment is this? I think that's the complete opposite way to look about it, or to think about it. You shouldn't be saying, oh, can I afford a house because I'm paying $2,000 a month in rent, but my mortgage payment with my taxes and insurance is going to be $1,900, right? So therefore it's cheaper. That's not the right way to look at it at all. If you look at it that way, in my opinion, that's a good way to go bankrupt. A good way to look at it is, what is my debt to income ratio? Can I afford to make a sizable down payment? And what works within my financials? Because if you just go based on the mortgage payment, here's what you're not factoring in. Example number one. When you live in an apartment and water starts pouring in from the roof, who do you call? You call the landlord and they come and fix it. Let's say your toilet backs up. Who do you call to fix that? The landlord. Let's say your AC breaks in the middle of the summer. Who do you call to fix something like that? You call the landlord, right? But when you are now the property owner, the tables turn and things are different. When that AC breaks, you're on the hook for fixing that. When a lightning strikes a tree and the tree falls on your house, who's responsible to fix that? You are. So I think a lot of people get themselves into a lot of trouble when they're like, oh, my monthly payment's going to be $1,900, but they don't factor in the maintenance. They don't factor in, okay, if I'm going to have a tenant in here, what if the tenant destroys the property, right? So there's a lot more responsibility and a lot more volatile factors when you're a homeowner. So I think we should probably think about it a little bit differently. I'll give you one more look at the street. Hey, Melee is here. Says, hello, everybody. Good evening. Hey, Melee. Good to see you. Leida says, Tom, as a homeowner, you've got to be able to afford the major repairs and upkeep. And let me tell you, there will be upkeep. There will be things that break. The toilets will back up. That's just a part of being a homeowner. Hey, Michael says, here and now, if anybody is interested in starting a business, then look out for what is failing New York. Small town may be massive, a big thing around your village. Look into it, says Michael. Interesting, love that. Parking full-time says the 10-year got to 3%, a whole lot faster than I thought. Not good for stocks and real estate. Yeah, you're right. Parking full-time. So to your point, parking full-time, tech stocks got hammered again. And it's really, so in this week's issue of the Behind the Street newsletter, I'm going to be reiterating on Behind the Street issue number 9. I believe it was issue number 9, when I talked about stocks can go a lot lower than you think. And that's why it's important not to just buy a company just because it has good fundamentals. If it's in a downtrend, sort of the analogy that I like to say is a trout cannot swim upstream. And if you have a really good stock that's beating earnings, let's say if it consistently beats their EPS estimates, it is consistently beating their revenue estimates, even though that stock should be higher, if the major indices are down, like the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the NASDAQ, or the S&P, doesn't matter how good the fundamentals are, the stock is probably going to fall under pressure as well. I think about 7 out of 10 stocks will follow the overall trend of the market. So just be very, very careful in these situations, because I think we're going to make a third leg lower here. So we just have to keep tabs on it. But if you guys want to read that, if you type !news, NEWS in the chat, please click the link, and the Nightbot will drop the link to the Behind the Street newsletter, and you can sign up for free. I will send it out to you guys every single Tuesday. Hey, Ken Kramer says tech stocks are oversold. There's a lot of money to make on these dips. Yeah, so Ken, I agree and I disagree a little bit. The thing is, just look what happened in 2000. I mean, stocks could go a lot lower. But I think there are some bargains to be had. I think there are some bargains. Or you could scan the QR code on your screen. So if you're watching this on your TV or your tablet, if you take your phone and scan the QR code, it'll take you to the landing page of the Behind the Street newsletter. And I'll send it to you free of charge every single week. And I think we're almost at 850 people. So thank you guys so much for reading. Much appreciated. Mike C says, is Netflix one of those bargains? So we talked about Netflix a couple days ago. They really got hammered on earnings. I think Netflix is going to turn into one of those stocks that are mature. So usually these big, high beta growth stocks, more specifically in tech, early in their growth cycle, the majority of them will have PE ratios of like 100 or 200 or something crazy like that. But as they mature and as revenue growth slows, doesn't mean they're a bad company. I think the market will assign that particular stock or that particular company a new multiple. So should it trade at 20 times sales? Probably not. Should it trade, at 20 times earnings or whatever? I'm just making the number up, right? But usually as stocks get more mature, they tend to find a PE normalization. And especially during a time when interest rates are rising, you're probably going to see a lot of PE or price to earnings compression. So for me, in my actively managed accounts, I try not to do any bottom fishing. So if a stock is in a clear downtrend, I very, very, very seldom try to buy when stocks are trending lower. Because you never know how low it could go. But here is the Kith store. Hey, Future, good to see you. NMB 045 says, Tom, European markets will have to be careful over the French election tomorrow because they priced in Macron win, even though it's going to be a close election. Yeah, that's true. Emerging markets have been getting hit a lot. Emerging markets have been getting absolutely hammered. So I think one of the, an ETF that tracks emerging markets is ticker symbol VWO or EEM. I think both of them do, but they're both getting hammered, like really, really, really hammered. Hey, Santo is here, good to see you. Andy S says cheese and wine stocks are going up. Good to see you, Andy S. All right, everybody, let's head back to Midtown Manhattan. Hey, Peters is right up the block from that sneaker store is the Bowery. They have 3 homeless shelters 1 block away. From there, most dangerous place you can imagine. I'm there all the time. It's not that bad. But yeah, there's some riffraff there, but it's not like the most dangerous place you could imagine. But I do see your points. Hey, Cosmo Scary. Welcome, Cosmo. What's up? Hope you're doing good, Cosmo. So now we are walking northbound, crossing over Bond Street. This is one of my favorite apartment buildings in the entire city. Cosmo Scary says, hey Tom, did you discuss Netflix commercials already? So are you talking about the Netflix earnings? So we talked about Netflix earnings, but I'm not, are you talking about the potential for Netflix to make a free subscription service, but make it generated by advertisements? So we did talk about that a little bit. And, you know, that was one of the main questions asked to Reed Hastings on that earnings call. And essentially they're like, look, do you think that the market is saturated? And are you in the process of creating any innovative ways to potentially bring back more subscribers? And they said yes. So one of the things that we're trying to do is create a freemium version of Netflix powered by advertisements. So, and this has worked really well with YouTube, right? I mean, I don't charge you guys, right, to watch this content. It's not like I say, oh, this is like a Netflix where you have to pay $10 a month to watch the streams. No, it's free. Anybody could join, right? But the only thing is, you know, you may have to be burdened by watching an advertisement. You know what I mean? So Netflix is exploring something like that. I'm not sure how successful that's gonna be, but we'll have to see. But Cosmo, good to see you. Center Star says, do you walk and talk stocks all the time? I love it, yes. So we do. So we go live about 5 days a week between New York City and Miami. We split our time about 50-50. But if you want to continue the conversation talking about equities, I do write a free financial newsletter for everybody. So if you type !news, N-E-W-S, in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link. And if you want to follow us on Twitter at Walks Wall Street, that's where I really post the majority of my equity research. You know what? Let's go to Washington Square Park. I want to show everybody Washington Square Park tonight. Hey, Peter says, I was jumped with a friend of mine on 3rd Avenue, right where you are, and my friend was dragged away and ended up in the hospital. Oh my God, Peter. That's horrible, man. I'm so sorry that happened. Yeah, that sucks. That's why you always got to carry, you know, either brass on you or you got to carry pepper spray. Brass or pepper spray. Wei says, what's your edge in trading? Minus supply, demand, Fibonacci, inside and outside bars. Yeah, so Wei, I think my edge comes from my career. So I have a career in enterprise tech sales. So the majority of the equities or stocks that I cover are enterprise software companies. So since I transitioned from SMB, small to medium business sales, into enterprise, which is selling either complex software products or hardware products to Fortune 500 companies, I sort of really get a good look into which particular software or hardware these enterprises are buying and why. So for example, why would a company choose to go for a Zscaler product as opposed to CrowdStrike? Something like that. Why would they choose their HR software to go with Workday as opposed to Zoho or something like that? So I think that's where I get my edge, potentially. But those are really good comments. Those are really good comments. Hey, Taylor C is here. Hey, Taylor. Welcome. Cynthia Martinez is, am I late? You were right on time. The party does not start until Cynthia Martinez comes. But Wei Zhang, it's good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining. Cosmo Scary says, I was at Washington Square Park. The cherry blossoms were awesome. Nice. You know, Cosmo, I got to go to Central Park tomorrow and check out the cherry blossoms and see if they're still there. I'm not sure if they're still up. I may have missed them. Center Star says, new subscriber. Thank you so much, Center Star. You are way too kind. So thank you for joining. W. Peters says, hello, Tom, from Fargo, North Dakota. Love North Dakota. Wei Zhang says, Tom, I mostly trade the SPY. or the spiders in the IWM. Awesome. So do you deploy any quantitative strategies by chance? Just curious. You know, back in my college days, I was trying to build a trading bot based upon market sentiment in the newspapers. So I would take different keywords in the Wall Street Journal and Investors Business Daily, and based upon the verbiage a lot of the journalists would use, I would try to like trend trade them, and did not work. And it took about 3 or 4 years to build the entire thing, but it didn't work. It failed miserably. But I guess it was a good learning experience. Well, at least that's what I tell myself. Taylor C says, I was trying to go to New York City before, but my ID won't make it in time. Your ID won't make it in time. Hey, Shane Newton says, hello, good to see you. Wei Zhang says, not really. I am a TA trader. Price action and volume is all I need. Hey, that's awesome. So speaking of that, I actually just picked up a book today at the East Village bookstore. So I already do have the book in my collection, but these books are worth probably like $75 to $100 a clip. So anytime I could buy it for like 10 bucks, I'll get it. But it's called Japanese Candlesticks. And that has to do a lot with price and volume action. And it's a good coffee table book. You know, very good coffee table book. So this is the Stern School of Business at NYU. So talking about finance, if you guys really want to do solid fundamental securities analysis, you know, check out Professor Damodaran. And Professor Damodaran teaches securities analysis right here at NYU Stern School of Business. And Afswat Damodaran is really considered the dean of valuation. He sometimes, not as much as he used to, makes a lot of appearances on CNBC. And even though he's not a practical trader or investor, he's an educator. I think he's fantastic. And if you look at his YouTube channel, he's actually nice enough to post a lot of his lectures right here at NYU Stern School of Business for free. So if you're interested in learning how to build a discounted cash flow model or something like that, please check out his YouTube channel for free. And he's a professor right here at NYU. Hey, Rana says, hello, Tom. Good evening. I am from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Hey, good to see you. Cheese says, I wish I could go to America. Please come. Please come. Yada says, Tom, are there any cops in Central Park at night? There are. Indeed, there are. Hey, I see British Gray. What's up? The one and only British Gray from Tampa, Florida. Good to see you. So everybody, check this out. This is congratulations NYU class of 2026. Now, looking at a sign like this makes me feel so old. Class of 2026. I think I was the class of what? 2018, I think. Yes, class of 2018. Cosmo, what class were you? Baruch, class of, I think we graduated the same year, right? Yeah, Cosmo's like, oh my God, Tom, I feel the same way. Isn't that crazy? I'm like, oh my God, 2026? I'm like, these kids are children, man. Yeah, guys, Ibrahim Azam's like, I'm class of 2029. Ibrahim is probably the youngster in the group. Wow, check out the Empire State Building in the background, everybody. All lit up in purple. Awesome color. So as we walk closer to Midtown, we're gonna be able to see all of it. WW says, I was class of 2020. JF says, could be worse, class of 1926. I wonder if there's any people class of 1926 alive. Steve Buffalo says, coming down to Tampa next week. What's going on there? Hey, Steve. Awesome, man. Any particular reason why you're coming to Tampa? I think you're gonna love it. The weather has been beautiful in Miami. But although the weather's actually quite nice here too in New York, I thought, you know, since I'm in Miami now and I wake up and it's 80 degrees every day, I thought that I was going to be freezing here in 60 degrees, but I'm actually not. It's actually quite nice. Wow, check out all of these tulips here in the park. These are beautiful. So if you guys are enjoying the stream so far, feel free to smash the like button and leave a like on the video. NMB045 says, Tom, I was the class of 2015, LaSalle College, Montreal accounting major. Hey, awesome. I was the class of 2018. Hopefully I'm getting that right. John J. Yeah, Layla's like, Tom, it's cherry blossom season and tulip season. Wei Zhang says, Tom, technical analysis TA is the easy part. The hard part is trading psychology, which Mark Douglas has 2 amazing books, Disciplined Trader and Trading in the Zone. You know what? Those are fantastic books, Wei. Those are fantastic books. If you want, please join our Discord, because we oftentimes talk about financial markets there, and we'd love your input. And we also are, well, we're in the process of starting a Walks in Wall Street book club. So we're in the process of doing that. So in the links in the description, please check out our Discord and connect with us on Twitter. So check this out. This is Washington Square Park on a beautiful, beautiful night in Manhattan. And you could smell the marijuana. I mean, you could smell the flowers. Beautiful, beautiful flowers here. And unfortunately, the fountain is on, so there's no skateboarders in the fountain, which is kind of a bummer. I sometimes like watching the skateboarders in the fountain. So during my college days, I used to skateboard here all the time. Hey, the ABX girl is here. Good to see you. Wow, guys, look at the, check this out. Let me walk a little bit closer to the entrance.
Oh my God. That scared the shit out of me.
War Walker says you're getting a contact high. I think I am too, a little bit. I'm feeling the buzz. Oh man, that guy is nice. He is very nice. You know, I think I can conclusively say at least Washington Square Park is 100% back. Right, Cosmo? What do you think? I think Washington Square Park is back. This is usually the amount of people there is, especially pre-COVID. But if you look in the distance, that is actually the Freedom Tower or One World Trade Center. Anna says, show us some moves. Yeah, usually the fountain is off and you could actually skateboard in the fountain. I used to do this all the time when I was younger. Taylor C says, my neighbors hate me. I live in Southern California. Well, I think weed is pretty much legal. Nobody really bothers too much. Nobody really cares. Hey, Hemp Lord is here. Good to see you, Hemp Lord. So everybody, just really quick. So Microsoft, ticker symbol MSFT, will report Q3 earnings results on Tuesday. But here's the only thing. I believe there's this one analyst at UBS, and they're saying that commercial Office 365 revenue growth is probably going to start to decelerate slightly due to the fact that there's been so much pull forward from the pandemic. But I think the biggest thing to look for, and you guys are probably gonna hate me when I say this, because I say this all the time, whenever you have Amazon, whenever you have Microsoft, whenever you have Google reporting earnings, the number one metric that we want to focus on is not the Office 365, is not all that nonsense. It's not really nonsense, but the main thing we want to focus on is their cloud computing division. So for Microsoft, we want to focus on their Azure cloud. For Amazon, we want to focus on their AWS. And for Google, we want to focus on their Google Cloud. Ooh, that was nice. So Microsoft, I think the biggest story on that is probably going to be their Azure cloud revenue. So on Tuesday, we'll probably have the entire stream dedicated to Microsoft. Well, check out the beautiful Empire State Building. But the majority of analysts on Wall Street, or the consensus, is that Microsoft will report $2.19 of EPS, or earnings per share. That would probably be about 12% growth from the same quarter last year. When we're talking about revenue or sales, the majority of analysts are expecting about $49 billion, or about 17.5% growth quarter over quarter. So we will keep you updated on that. So let's take a little bit of a break and watch some of the skateboarders. Marcelo's, the skaters are killing it, absolutely killing it. A lot of talented skaters here. Very smooth, very clean. So for a lot of people that are watching the chat, we used to do these live streams on the skateboard, and I think we'll probably have our first skateboarding stream tomorrow. Fantastic. If he was going a little bit faster, he would have got that. Fantastic. A lot of talented skaters here, guys. Ren 1018 is here. Good to see you, Ren 10. I think I've actually skated with him before. But I will walk to the other side and show you guys. Oh, run number 2. Ooh, they were in the way. But we'll check out the arch. Hey, Sarah G. Says, what do you think about the services consult contact of Sentinel One? Walks in Wall Street. Consulting contact. So are you talking about, well, Sentinel One is ticker symbol S. And I think that they're actually going to get acquired pretty soon, but they are a cybersecurity company. Andy S says, I know, good to see you. Buy the Books has great skate parks here in Southern California. I could imagine. Hey, DB Douglas is great camera work. Thank you, DB Douglas. All right, we'll take one lap around Washington Square Park. Then we will head back up towards the Empire State Building. Peter says, stay safe, Tom, and God bless. Thank you, Peter. Very kind of you. Anna says, was he talking to us? I'm not sure. Some people try to say stuff. I try to just ignore it. Sarah G, good to see you. Hemp Lord says, Tom, I'm learning how to skate. It's lots of fun. My neighborhood has 2 parks. Yeah, you know, I think and you know, it's going to sound weird, but if you want to be a good salesperson, and if you want to be a good investor, I would say skateboarding is a fantastic hobby, because with skateboarding, you're guaranteed to get some sort of injury, be it severe or maybe minor injury. It's just going to happen. I mean, so if you commit to skateboarding, you're going to get injured. And it's very similar in sales and investing, because if you're selling like a big enterprise tech deal, and you spend hours and hours and weeks and months pitching an enterprise client on $1 million deal, and the deal falls through to a competitor, and you're like, oh my gosh, I would have made, you know, $50,000 this quarter in commission if I had closed that deal. and then you lose the deal. You know, you're gonna feel injured, you're gonna feel hurt. And I think if you just push through, you're gonna find some success. And the same thing in investing, you know, just like Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman, I think, lost about $500 million on his Netflix investment. So skateboarding is very similar. Teaches you how to deal with rejection and failure in an appropriate way. And I think that's probably why I like skateboarding so much. But check out this cherry blossom tree in Washington Square Park. Ibrahim Azam says, Tom, have you ever been injured? Yes. Yes, I have. Cosmo Scary, what's up? This is Tom, my favorite park right here. Michael says, I'm very new to your channel. Is this a major money-making thing? What is? Sarah G says, honing those skills and staying calm and focused. Agreed. Hemp Lord says, push through. Hey Ken, this is back and forth between World Trade Center, Empire State Building. Laurie says, nice shot. Thank you, Laurie. Yeah, Chris Beeman says, pretty trees. You know, the cherry blossoms are definitely out. You know, I think one of my first videos on the channel was this time last year when I did a skateboarding tour of Washington Square Park during the cherry blossom blooming event. I think that's probably one of my favorite videos on the channel. DB Douglas, well, it ain't a minor money-making thing. Oh, Michael says, walking around your city. No, we don't really make money on this at all. I mainly do it for the connections. So you'd be surprised if we've actually been able to connect with a lot of people and grow our network. So it's been a blast, and I like it a lot. And also what I've found is when I prepare sort of like a topic for each night, as I talk about it, it tends to solidify the information a little bit more in my brain. Fourth Quarters is not knocking her. That was cool of her to talk to the stream. I had a strong laugh at that. She was kind of hilarious. Sarah G says, definitely you've changed my life. Well, thank you, Sarah. So here's a beautiful view of Freedom Tower. But thank you for watching, Sarah G. Much appreciated. And let's continue to walk up. Yeah, Pacific Desert Rays is really nice to see New York again. It is nice to be back, I'm not gonna lie. It's nice to be back. I think New York is probably the best this time of year when it's not too cold. It's getting warmer, so it's very, very nice here. Sarah G says, you opened my eyes to opportunities in tech sales. Yes. So Sarah G, very lucrative opportunities, and they tend to be entry-level positions, so you don't really need much experience. You know, these tech companies are raising so much money by going public that they're looking to hire fresh people that are very motivated and no experience needed. Reproduction 1, good to see you. Cosmo Scary says, interesting concept, Tom. I think I heard that. Yeah, teaching, yeah, it just makes you a little bit better, I think. You know, the more I talk about, you know, these particular companies, I think the better I understand them fundamentally. Ooh, I think he's gonna try to jump it again. Let's see. Nice. All right, friends, let us head out. So another thing about skateboarding that translates very well to investing and sales is the amount of persistence. So you see that kid, how many times he's tried to jump over this thing? We've been here for probably 30 minutes, and this kid has probably tried that same trick at least 7 or 8 times within the 30-minute time frame we've been here. I can guarantee he was here for about 5 hours, and he'll continue to be here for another 2 hours trying the same thing. So it teaches you persistence and just absolutely being relentless in trying to do the trick. And one of these times he's going to land it. He's going to nail it. And it's the same thing in sales and investing. You know, if you make an investment and you lose money and it bombs, the majority of people, they throw their hands up and quit and says, oh, investing is too risky. I'm going to lose all my money. The first time somebody makes a cold call and the person on the other end of the phone says, never call me again, and hangs up in your face, well, then they shut down and they quit and they never do it again. But the concept of that is you just have to be persistent, ruthlessly persistent, and pursue it every day, forever, and you're going to find success. You're going to find some success. Hey, Skylar's here. Good to see you. It's so nice to see New York City come back to life. I love it. Yeah, it's definitely probably already back, especially Washington Square Park. Beautiful night in the city. Christina, this is Tom. It looks like a quiet night at Washington Square Park. I used to go to the NYU library. Awesome. Thank you for watching. You know, we didn't get a chance to walk around St. Mark's Place, but maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Lori E., good to see you. Sarah G says, if you believe in yourself and stay determined, you can make it happen. Read. Hey, Christina, good to see you. Skylar WW, good to see you. Pacific Desert Raid says, hey, Tom, that'll be you with the skateboard soon. Penelope says, Tom, doesn't this want you to break out the wounded knee? It does. We may break it out tomorrow depending on the weather. Depending on the weather, we may be back on the wounded knee skateboard. Jay, what's up? I definitely want to try to see if we can get all the way up to 42nd, because that means we will walk past the Stephen Schwarzman building of the New York Public Library. You know, we did hear from Stephen Schwarzman earlier in the week, or I think last week. We heard from him because Blackstone reported a decent earnings report. But it was interesting to note from Blackstone, I think the division of the company that had the most profits was their REIT division, or the Real Estate Investing Trust, their real estate division. So as we were talking about before, you know, what sort of assets tend to perform better during times of inflation? Real estate tends to be a pretty decent inflation hedge, right? Because not only can you make money off the capital appreciation of that asset, but you also make money off the cash flows, which could help with the principal pay down of the property too. NNB045 says, Tom, in my opinion, success in sales also depends on your geographic location. Example, for me, Montreal is a terrible market for sales. I kind of disagree with that, but I'll respectfully disagree. I mean, but then again, I tend to be like a ridiculous optimist. I mean, almost to a point where it's annoying. But I do see your opinion. Marcellus says, skateboarding teaches us to never give up. Agreed. But yeah, I mean, NNB045, let's say if you're in a territory that may not be as lucrative, I do think there's potentially, this is a nice Tesla taxi right here. I do think there's potentially some territories that are more lucrative than others, right? If your particular company's limiting you to, you know, selling into a specific area where there's no businesses, then yeah, maybe somebody that would have a territory of Manhattan would probably do better than the person in some sort of rural America. Hey, fourth quarter, good to see you. I love this stream, good to see you. Cindy Foley, what's up? So I'm not sure why the Empire State Building is all lit up, but I think it sort of looks like the Knicks, so the New York Knicks. What do you guys think? honest as I tried riding an electric scooter and gave up after a few tries. Electric scooters move you forward. Who knew it was so hard to ride? You know, I'll probably have to try that out. There's a ton of the electric scooters in, what's it called? Miami. Latha, is it really lit up for the Lakers? No way. Hey Lewis, welcome Lewis. Says hey Tom and everybody. Good to be back in New York City. Indeed it is. Hope your weekend is off to a good start, Lewis. Hope everything is going well with you. Oh, check this out. This is a synagogue. I think I actually been here before for an event. Look at how beautiful it is here in the back. Really nice. Hey, Thomas is here. Says the Knicks aren't in the playoffs. Iowa Oaks' empire is lit for the Islanders Alumni Association. You know, I think I was getting off the Long Island Railroad yesterday, and there was a bunch of Islanders fans. I'm not sure if it was the Islanders Rangers last night, but there was so many people chanting, "Let's go Islanders." So these are some of my favorite apartments / homes in New York. These beautiful brownstones. Look at the architecture on these. Oh my God, look it up there. Look at that guy's bookshelf. Absolutely beautiful. Hey Jay, says Tom, how was your flight up? The flight was good. My flight was actually really, really good. Crazy. So a little bit of a story about the flight. You know how I usually always pay like $50? I always tell you guys, oh, it's the best. I pay $50 for the flight. It was $750, but wait, calm down. Breathe in, breathe out. Don't freak out. I didn't pay the $750. Since I'm coming here, sponsoring an event, my client was generous enough to pay for it, but I couldn't believe it. I was like almost embarrassed to send him the invoice because it's usually like $50. But I go online, I'm like, oh my gosh, the cheapest flight is like $750. I couldn't believe it. It was insane. Yeah, Hemp Lord, isn't that crazy? Hey, Felix. So this is actually a really good taco place. Very good here. I come here often. Latha says, did you buy it last minute? I did, but that's not the reason why, actually. The reason why, I think, because a lot of snowbirds are coming back to Miami. I think that's the reason why. Or coming back to New York from Miami. I think that's the main reason. But yeah, I couldn't believe it. But if you look at some of the other flights, everything else, like I looked, in May and June, it's all $50-$60. But this week it was $750. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. But yeah, I mean, thankfully, I didn't have to pay it. I got my airfare covered. But still, I mean, talk about a ripoff. Buy the book says, could it be because of higher fueling costs? It could be. So speaking of airlines, Delta, United, all reporting really, really strong quarters. And the CEO of both United and Delta essentially said, they're like, look, we're seeing a massive uptick in volume. And they said, for the first time ever since 2019, because we all know what happened in 2020, they said for the first time ever, sales are now back above 2019 levels to new all-time record highs. Now, why do we think this is? Well, the main reason why I think this is, and we essentially got our answer during earnings season of the big investment banks. We'll just let this guy go by. We got our answer from the big investment banks. So we heard from JP Chase, we heard from Citigroup, and these are the main credit card issuers in the United States. And Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Chase, essentially came on the earnings call and said, look, the credit card spending is shifting from what it was in the pandemic. More people now are buying on experiences, vacations, traveling, and that's probably because COVID's pretty much over in the United States. I mean, vaccines are readily available to everybody. You know, if you want to get a vaccine, you can essentially get one 24/7, 365 in the United States. The vast majority of our population is vaccinated. And everybody wants to spend money on going out. Everybody wants to travel. So I think that's why we've seen, airfares tick up a bit. But I think another reason is because look at the cost of crude oil. I think crude oil, ticker symbol CL, is at about $102 a barrel. And the CEO of Delta and United both said that they were able to pass those costs on to consumers. So maybe that's the reason for the ridiculous price increase this week. Hey, photos from around New York, what's up? This is Ola, good to see you. Pacific Desert Rates is online shopping. Saw a huge rise in 2020. Indeed it did, and I think that's why stocks like Shopify essentially got a little bit ahead of themselves, right? Just look at like a weekly or monthly chart of Shopify, ticker symbol SHOP. That stock had a meteoric rise, and now that thing is getting clocked. That thing is getting hammered into the floor because I think it was growing its revenues and growing its profits so fast that when interest rates started to tick higher, the market is now assigning new multiples to those particular stocks, and PE compression is underway. Hey, Long Island Duck is here. Good afternoon. This is a nice night for a walk. Thank you for coming. Lud is here. Good to see you. Laura E says corporations are cashing in, perhaps. Danielle says, I'm a trader. Very cool. What do you trade? Commodities, equities, cryptocurrencies. We'd love to know. Pacific Desert Rates is $2.93 billion in 2020 from Shopify. Wow, it's insane. Another, I guess you could call COVID stock is Zoom, ticker symbol ZM. That thing has absolutely gotten pounded. And I think that's why I follow the old saying, never fall in love with a stock, because once they crack, they crack. Yeah, Jay says, I hear Salesforce took a hit. They did. So Salesforce is Mark Benioff's company. Hey, Danielle says, I trade Forex. Very cool. Paul says, can you live only with trading? No. So I think here's where I think a lot of people sort of get like trading wrong. There's a lot of these like charlatans on the internet that says, make $100 a day trading stocks. Like, that's not a reality. That's not realistic. The goal is to either get a career or start a business where you can increase your income consistently every year over time, and then take your income and invest it over a long period of time to compound out above average returns, right? And that's called alpha. So let's say if the S&P 500 consistently returns 10% a year. If you want to take a portion of your portfolio and try to actively manage it in order to generate alpha, you know, that's what you want to do. But you don't want to trade for income. For your income, you get a job, right? You could be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could work at a grocery store, whatever you want to do, right? You could be an investment banker, you could be a software engineer, you could sell software, you could be in technology, whatever it is, that's your income. You don't want to trade for income. You want to trade to invest to compound out your net worth over time. And I think that a lot of the people you see online that say, oh, you could trade for an income, they don't really know what they're talking about, and probably they have very, very little experience in finance or tech, at least from my experience. Cynthia Beal says, Tom, you were in Washington Square 10 minutes ago. This would take me 30 minutes to walk. Yeah, I think we're picking up the pace a little bit. Hey, Chris Beeman, good to see you. NMZ Bureau 45 says, how does Zoom make profits? They make a lot of money, actually. Zoom sells subscription software to conferencing. So I'm sure everybody here has been on a Zoom call, right? So anytime you're on a Zoom call, a host has to have a paid subscription to Zoom. Now, you can have a free subscription to Zoom, but I think that your conference is probably only going to be limited to like 10 or 15 minutes. So the vast majority of organizations have subscriptions or paid subscriptions to Zoom or something like that. Check out this tree here, beautiful. Hey, John K. This is great view. Good to see you, John. Gregory says the free version is also limited to 2 people. Thank you for that. Hey, Lewis is 45 minutes. The freemium business model. You know, another thing I notice is a lot of companies will actually have more than one conferencing type of software. So at my old tech company, we had, I think it's called Microsoft Teams. We had Microsoft Teams, we had Zoom, and then we also had Cisco WebEx. And I cannot stand Cisco WebEx. I actually don't like it so much I refuse to use it. Hey, Tom M says everything is up. Not Corp's fault, current administration. Period, no idea what they're doing. I actually agree with that to some extent, Tom. Pacific Desert Raids, New York City views never disappoint. Cindy Foley says, Tom, is it spring there yet? Yes, it is spring. Hey, Hugsy Penguins says, soon Tom will be at Madison Square Park. Sonia C says, I always look forward to these videos. Thank you. Thank you, Sonia. Hey, Eyeglass Lady is here. Says the schools use Google Meets. Yeah, so anything public sector, to your point, and education, Google really has that market cornered. Eyeglass Lady, to your point. I actually have been up in many deals with state and local governments, or it's called SLED. So essentially, if anybody here is in tech sales, or really any sales, you know, you could be selling into the SLED, which is your state and local governments, and those are the hardest deals to get, for a couple of reasons, but we'll talk about that later. Hey, Long Island Ducks says now we just need to put stuff in bins. Eyeglass Lady, good to see you. Hemp Lord says, what's up with Russia and the gold standard? I'm not too sure. I think it's just that they're trying to diversify their currency holdings. I mean, you see the same thing with the Japanese, right? I think the Japanese is shifting some of their currency over to the Chinese currency, or the renminbi. Sonia C says, do you know if a Canadian teacher teach in New York City? I'm not sure. So I think the future, and so Michael Novogratz, so for anybody who doesn't know who Michael Novogratz is, he was a former managing director at Goldman Sachs. Then he left Goldman Sachs to work at Fortress Investments. And Fortress Investments is a hedge fund here in New York City. He did extremely, extremely well at Fortress. Made himself $1 billion. And now he runs Galaxy Digital Assets, which is a company that is focused on onboarding institutional investors to Bitcoin, Ethereum, essentially cryptocurrency exposure, an institutional onboarding ramp, right? So Michael Novogratz. And if you guys want to read a good article that I wrote, I actually was able to sit front row at Michael Novogratz's keynote speech at the Bitcoin 2022 conference. So if you want to read that, if you type !news, NEWS, in the chat, it's going to drop the link to the Behind the Street newsletter. Please punch in your email and sign up. It's completely free. But essentially, Michael Novogratz, his take is that the United States is still going to be the world's reserve currency, but it's not going to be the only reserve currency. I think because of the instability throughout the world, you're going to see nation states hold maybe 25% US dollars, 25% Chinese currency, 25% gold, and his big bet is 25% Bitcoin. So I think the flight to safety now, on a relative basis, is the US dollar, but I think that's going to change over time. I don't think the US dollar will be the only game in town. I don't think so. Hey, Sarah G, good to see you. Hope you're well. The ABX girls as Wells Fargo and USAA had big layoffs in their mortgage division yesterday, and more to come, like 2005 to 2006 all over again before the big recession/depression. Yeah, the ABX girl, I mean, with rates ticking up. So ABX girl, I guess we could talk about, I was going to talk about it a little bit later, but I think this is a good segue. The market activity at yesterday's close has me concerned of another sort of Black Monday event. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at the vast majority of stocks, the vast majority of them are down 35% plus from all-time record highs. The vast majority are trading below their 200-day moving average and their 50-day moving average. And look which stocks just cracked yesterday. It was Google, Alphabet, it was Nvidia. All the big mega cap tech stocks are starting to roll over. And usually it's called the biggest soldiers are the ones that fall last. And I think if Apple cracks the lows of last month, you know, it's a very good possibility you could see some sort of a flash crash circuit breaker event that happens. Not to scare anybody. I actually think that'd be a pretty decent buying opportunity. But I think due to the fact that the Federal Reserve is using verbiage that is very aggressive, obviously we're probably going to see a 50 to 75 point basis hike, or a basis point rate hike at the next FOMC meeting. That would be the first back-to-back rate hike since 2006. So I think we're going to start to see a little bit of a liquidity event here. And when you have a liquidity crunch, that's when you have these big flash crashes, right? It's called having a very, very thin market, but I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I think the possibility, I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen. Let's just say that. Penelope, good to see you. Penelope is joining us from the one and only Tennessee. Love Tennessee, great town. Lori E. Sarah G says New York State no longer offers internal reciprocity. If you completed your education outside the United States, you will need to include an evaluation of your credentials as part of your TEACH application for New York State teacher certification. Well, thank you for that. I did not know that at all. Hey, Pacific Desert Raid, good to see you. You know, I think if we get a third leg down in this market, it's going to create like generational buying opportunity. That's going to be insane. The ABX girl says Orange County homeowners are in big trouble with DeSantis, Disney. I don't really think so. ABX girl, I don't really want to get into a debate on that, but I think that's a big non-issue. And the likelihood of that actually coming to fruition is probably very slim. I think it's just, you know, a political media game. I think that's very slim that's going to happen. Danielle says, please try linear regression. It is better than moving averages. Try and you will see it. You know, I actually have tried that, actually. I use a lot of that. You're right. Who else do we have here? Thomas is here. Good to see you. Hey, Carol H. Welcome. So everybody, we've reached the point in the stream where we are about to experience a view that I like to say will, quote unquote, rip your face off. And it's probably one of the most beautiful views anywhere in the United States. And it happens right here on the Walks on Wall Street stream on East 22nd Street, looking at the Empire State Building. JC Trade, good to see you. Wow, check out the color on the Empire State Building tonight. Beautiful. Yeah, Lori E says it's so pretty. I mean, you can't get a better view than that. I mean, right? Agreed? Hey, Atomic Skittles says, can you walk through Madison Square Park? We definitely will try. I'm not sure what time it is. Could we do a quick time check in the chat? Because there may be, what's it called? It may be closed. It may be closed. Photos from around New York. Carol H, good to see you. These flowers are beautiful too. Really nice. So this is East 22nd Street. We are actually right outside of Madison Square Park, but more importantly, we are right outside of the Flatiron Building, which is very, very famous. John K, thank you for the time check. So 10:31, so it's still quite early. We do have to make our way all the way up to the Steven Schwartzman Building, so we'll do that. But if you guys look directly in front of you, this little sort of white speck on your screen is actually the very top of the Chrysler Building. Hey, Melee is here. Says, good evening from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Good to see you, Melee. Hope you're well. So if you guys are enjoying the stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new, as we see another beautiful view of the clock tower here. Hey, Emily Rosales, good to see you. This is hi Tom. I watched you at the Bitcoin Convention Center. I scanned to get free $10, but I never got them. Free $10? I'm not quite sure what you mean, but good to see you, Emily Rosales, as always. Wow, Iowa Oaks is Tom. I just found out that the Walgreens at Times Square closed. I didn't know that. That's crazy. I didn't know it closed either. Okay, check out the Flatiron building here. Steve127, good to see you, Steve. So this is the Flatiron building. The only downside is that there's scaffolding covering the entire thing. But this is one of the most famous buildings in New York City. A lot of tourists like to come here. And then if you look across the street, this is the Italy, which is the Italian grocery store. Hey, Steve, says Tom, please check out One Vanderbilt observation deck. It is quite amazing and impressive for New York City locals. You know, Steve, that is on my bucket list. I gotta do that. You know, I haven't been to a traditional, I guess you could say observation deck. Yeah, I haven't been to a traditional observation deck since I was a little kid. So I definitely have to go. All right, since it's Saturday and we don't have a specific topic for the stream, do you guys want to walk directly up 5th Avenue or should we walk up Broadway? I'll let you guys decide. So if you want us to walk up Broadway, please type Broadway in the chat. If you want us to walk up 5th, you could type 5th in the chat and let me know. Okay, Broadway, 5th. Broadway, Steve's is 5th, RS is 10th. 5th Avenue, Broadway, 5th. Either. I think it's split about 50-50, guys, honestly. Honest is which has better sites. I think Broadway may have a little bit better sites. RS is 10th. Man, it is literally split 50-50 here, guys. Hey, Q50 Norton, good to see you. Broadway. All right, let's do this. Broadway. All right, let's do this. I'm gonna think of the number. I'm gonna think of two numbers, and the first person to guess the number, that's the avenue we go up to. So type a number between 1 to 10, and then I'm gonna think of two numbers. If we get one number, that'll be the Broadway, and the other number will be 5th Avenue. 2, Sarah G, you got it. Wow, right off the bat. So 2 was 5th Avenue, 10 was Broadway. Wow. So first guess, we got it. So great guess. So we're gonna go up 5th Avenue. So 2 was 5th Avenue, 10 was Broadway. Wow. What, first guess, Sarah G, wow. Looks like you were reading my mind. All right, 5th Avenue is gonna be fantastic, and I'll tell you why. We're going to be able to see the Empire State Building pretty much the entire way. And then we're going to crash right into Koreatown, where we are going to walk past one of my favorite Korean barbecue spots. So I think it's going to be a good time. And I think this is a very famous bar here as well, with one of the best rooftops in the city. Okay, so this is East 26th Street and 5th Avenue. Hey, Line Sync. It's good to see you, Line Sync. It's always a pleasure to have you in the chat. Hope you're doing well. But check out the American flags with the Empire State Building in the background. Dave G says go to Madison Square Garden. We'll probably go to Madison Square Garden today. I have to go there anyway when I go home. But this is 230 5th Avenue, and there's actually a very famous rooftop bar here. And I'm assuming that's why everybody's standing out waiting. So this building, if you go all the way to the top, at the top of this building is a rooftop bar. And this is your view from the rooftop. Not a bad view. Not a bad view at all. Eric says, I wonder how much the cover charge is. I'm not too sure. You know, but every time we walk past that place, doesn't matter if it's really nice out, doesn't matter if it's cold and raining, there's always people lined up. Hey, Line Sync says, I'm doing okay, Tom. Hope the same for you. I'm doing really good. Doing really, really well. I just made it back to New York City last night. Travel was all right. The Empire State Building is lit up. Somebody said Jay-Z and Beyonce got married on the rooftop. Interesting. Hey, Drippy D is the city that never sleeps, the concrete jungle. Good to see you, my friend. I'm not too sure when I'm going to go back to Miami. I just got here 24 hours ago. Atomic Skittles says, Tom, do you ever get sick of the concrete jungle and feel like you need an escape? Not really. I think especially now that I bought a place in Miami, I'm always back and forth. So I really tend to never get sick of it. And plus, all my family is here too. I think if none of my family lived in New York, maybe I'd get a little bit sick of it, but Drippy D says, glad you remember me, bro. Cheers, no problem. As always, I always see you in the chat. Man, that looks good. This is also a very famous church here. Hey, Melissa 2087 says, I just tuned in. What street are we on? So, Melissa, we're walking up 5th Avenue. I think this is 29th Street. And we are about to bang right into Koreatown, which is one of my favorite places in all of New York. else. Is this live? This is live. But our final destination tonight is going to be upwards near the New York Public Library, the Stephen Schwarzman building. You know, for those of you who are just joining, we talked briefly about Blackstone's earnings. So obviously Stephen Schwarzman is at the head of Blackstone. And something very interesting about their earnings report was that their real estate business actually was a bright spot. So their real estate business outperformed. And I think that's because real estate is probably the best inflation hedge. And we were talking about the, I guess you can consider it the controversy of big institutional investors. This is a beautiful Tesla taxi right here. We were talking about the controversy of institutional investors buying up single family homes and pricing consumers out of the marketplace and potentially turning the United States into a renter nation. So we were talking about that briefly, but I think as interest rates go up, it could put some pressure on the housing market. But Stephen Schwarzman actually just came out with a really, really good book. It's kind of like a memoir on his life. I would definitely suggest reading it. One of my favorite books out there. Steve 127 says, I wonder where the people are going. Maybe to St. Mark's Place? Potentially? Hey, Marty Lewis is here. Good to see you, Marty. Hope you're well. So Marty Lewis, did you go swimming today? I was wondering. Hey, Louis Miguel. Good to see you, Louis Miguel. Cynthia Beal is here. 2087 says, headed to New York City about a month to see shark exhibit at the Museum of Natural History. Very cool. You know, I was thinking about going to the Morgan Library tomorrow. So if anybody wants to tag along, let me know in the Discord. Marty Lewis says, Tom, the scaffolding attracts homeless. Well, I think that the city's doing a lot about that, aren't they? They're taking down a lot of the scaffolding and they're taking down a lot of the, I guess you could call them homeless encampments. But here we are in Koreatown, where they have fantastic Korean barbecue places. Hey, Lion Sink. This is the Empire State, looking very cool tonight. Love the purple. All right, so let us walk through Koreatown on East 32nd Street and 5th Avenue. But here is my favorite Korean barbecue place. It is called Baekjeong. One of my favorite spots in all of New York City right here. Hey, Winger is here. Says, hey, Tom, good to see you, Winger. And here's another view of the Empire from right under it. Hey, Melissa 2087 says 60 degrees out there. Indeed. Sugar Cube is here. Says, hey, all, good to see you, Sugar Cube. Welcome. All right, so let's walk through Koreatown. We'll go to Broadway, and then we will walk up to the Stephen Schwarzman building. Andy S as well. You're still on. Cool. Thank you, Andy.
I'm like a virgin. Can you help? Like, I'm not really a virgin.
Michael says, is there anything for normal people to buy as opposed to just billionaires and millionaires? Yeah, I think it's more affordable than many make it out to be. I think the main thing that's very expensive here is the rent. But there's a lot of food places that you can come to that are not too bad. Hey, April, Spring 2015. Good to see you, April, Spring 2015. Always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us on our walk through Koreatown in New York. So welcome. Cynthia Beal, good to see you. Layda is still with us. Thank you for being here, Layda. Yeah, I think just the main thing that's expensive about New York is the rent. But there's some affordable food options, as the chat is saying. Agreed. So this is Grace Street. This is one of the best bakeries here in Koreatown, or at least one of my favorites. Melissa 2087 says, love Grace Street. Yeah, it's one of my favorite bakeries in the city. Sarah G says, so many opportunities in New York City. You know, it looks like they're closing down a lot of the outdoor dining facilities. There used to be all outdoor dining facilities all up and down this block. It only looks like there's a couple of them left. Yeah, Penelope's like, Tom, affordable food does not make the rent, only the wages do. That's true. Liminal, good to see you. All right, let's cross the street. So now, if you look straight ahead, this is New York's Penn Station. But we're actually going to make a right on Broadway and head uptown. I want to see the one and only Steven Schwartzman building. Atomic Skittles, good to see you. Welcome, welcome. So is there some sort of basketball game getting out of Madison Square Garden? Seems like there's a lot of foot traffic coming from MSG tonight.
You're gonna take it this way.
All right, now we're on 32nd Street. A lot of people out tonight. Line 6 is a lot of those places were set up during the pandemic. I think the city is slowly leaning towards removing a lot of them. Somebody says Fish are playing in Madison Square Garden tonight. I think we have a lot of Fish fans in the chat. I think Ibida is a big fish fan. Dow Jones, I believe, is also a really big fan. Yeah, Latha's like fish fans are loyal, for sure. Hey, did anybody see the big feud or the battle that's going on between Elon Musk and Bill Gates? So if anybody's following it, there's a big, I don't really want to say argument, but Elon Musk is posting a lot of memes about Bill Gates because supposedly Bill Gates has a massive short position on Tesla. And I guess Elon Musk isn't too happy about this because if you think about a lot of the stuff that Bill Gates is pushing with the ESG mandates, trying to be a little bit more environmentally friendly, you know, if Bill Gates really practiced what he preaches, you know, why would Bill Gates want to open up a massive short position on Tesla when Tesla is probably the one company in the United States that is doing the most to combat climate change? So it seems a little bit peculiar. Maybe it's sort of like a little bit of a billionaire ego thing. But let me know what you guys think in the chat. Hey, Vinny Castellano is here. He says, hey Tom, did you see my message earlier? I didn't, Vinny, but it's good to see you. Vinny and Maria Castellano from Staten Island, always a pleasure. Thank you for being here. Jason Francis says, good night, Tom. Thank you for the awesome live. Thank you for joining. Andy S says that they are ants. Hey, Chantel M says, hey Tom, if interest rates hike, put downward pressure on home prices, what happens to all of the people that took out home equity lines of credit? Also, won't it create bigger problems because there's still lots of buying? Yeah, so that is what the preliminary data is saying. And for single family homes, regardless of the increase in interest rates. And I think that's because we have a lot of well-capitalized buyers, right? So let's say if interest rates right now, well, they are, you know, with that 10-year treasury yield being at about 2.9%, that means a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is probably going to be about 5%, maybe even a little bit higher than that. If that's the case, but if we have very well-capitalized buyers, I don't think it's going to matter, right? I mean, if you could pay for a house in all cash, or only finance like 25% of it, I don't really think interest rates are going to matter too much for you. And especially considering we've been talking about a lot of the institutional buying, right? An institution can afford to pay cash for real estate, but I think it's going to put a little bit of downward pressure on home prices. I don't think that's going to be the end of the world. I think if you're a long-term investor, you sort of want prices to normalize here a little bit. Definitely prices can't just go up forever. So if you're a single family home buyer, a first time home buyer, I wouldn't panic. And I wouldn't make any sort of, how do you call it, concessions when buying a home. A lot of the times people, especially in this crazy market, they're convinced to forego necessary inspections, home inspections. So please don't do that. Deals will come around. And don't get into these egregious bidding wars with people paying $100,000 over asking. I can guarantee you more deals will come on the market. Don't have fear of missing out. And make sure you never, ever, ever waive necessary home inspections. John K says yes. Hey, Kurt Flirt 2 says don't trust Bill Gates. Elon is a bit much at times, but I trust him a lot more. Interesting. Liminal says Gates is a hack. Maria says good evening from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Well, welcome everybody from Sao Paulo. Good to see you. Always a pleasure. Hey, Otto says enjoying the stream, Tom, especially since it's my birthday today. Hey, Otto, happy birthday. I did not know that. Let's give Otto a quick happy birthday in the chat. Hope you're having a good one so far. A great time to have a birthday on the weekend. Liminal says, Tom, Elon is advancing humanity. I agree. Atomic Skittles says, Tom, is Elon Musk still trying to take over Twitter? He is. And he actually has funding secured for Twitter. So he has funding secured. I'd actually like to see Elon Musk take over Twitter, because shareholders have really been getting creamed with Twitter, if you think about it. Because at the end of the day, if you look at Twitter's stock price, it's been completely flat to negative over 9 years. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is because they've done an absolute horrible job of monetizing the platform. So I think that if Elon Musk goes in there, changes up the board, I think they could do a little bit better job of monetizing. And hopefully that will in turn lift the amount of value that's returned to shareholders. So right in front of us is the One Vanderbilt building, one of my favorite buildings in the city, but I have not yet been to the top of the One Vanderbilt building, at least not yet. But that will come in due time. But right now we're walking past West 37th Street and 6th Avenue, or Avenue of the Americas. Hey, UPS One. Good to see a UPS One. Says, hey Tom, what's up UPS One? Always good to see him. Marty Lewis. John K says, love New York City. Good to see you, John. So if you look straight ahead, if you see that big black building, that actually was my old office back in the day. The Marsh and McLennan building. Hey, Sebastian is here. Says, hey Tom, good to see you, Sebastian. Always a pleasure. Marty Lewis says, why do people invest in Twitter knowing it doesn't make money? Well, it makes some money, but I think it doesn't make as much money as it could. And just like with any investment, right? For example, with Bill Ackman, after 2 earnings reports ago, Netflix was down about 20% off the back of a poor earnings report. And Bill Ackman bet big on the stock, thinking that the company could bounce back. But what happened was the company started to deteriorate even more. And I think Bill Ackman lost over, I think it was something like $350 million on that one investment. And he just closed out the trade. So not everybody's perfect. And Bill Ackman has been taking a lot of heat on that, a lot. Yeah, Liminal says Twitter makes money with advertising, but the advertising on Twitter is not good at all. I mean, customers don't see really good conversion rates. If you think about something like Facebook or Instagram, a lot of the advertising there, your dollars go a little bit further, especially on YouTube. So YouTube advertising tends to do a lot better as well. Yeah, Jonathan Richards says, Tom, Elon Musk versus Bill Gates. I'll take Elon every day. I agree. All right, everybody. So now we are at Bryant Park. And here's another view of the One Vanderbilt. Kurt Flirt says, I could understand the downfall of Twitter, but what is going on with Netflix though? Well, I think the main issue with Netflix is not that the company is in decline, but I think we saw a ton of pull forward revenue from since the pandemic, right? If you think about what everybody was doing during the pandemic, everybody was forced to stay home, sit on the couch and watch Netflix. So their subscriber growth went gangbusters, quite literally. But, you know, now that we are out of the pandemic, I think what people and investors have to realize is that you're not going to grow at the same pace that you were during the pandemic because the catalyst is gone. Everybody who signed up for Netflix already has it. And if you really do a deep dive in the earnings report, they still generated about $800 million in free cash flow, which is actually really good. And if you consider that 700,000 of those lost subscribers were actually from Russia, the report actually wasn't so bad. The report actually wasn't so bad. But I think as the company matures, the market's going to assign it a more reasonable valuation. But here we have Bryant Park, one of my favorite locations in the city. Yeah, and Penelope says, Tom, Netflix also has little content to offer. Yeah, Penelope, I think you're right. Also, people just want to get out of the house, right? If you paid attention to the airlines earnings reports like United and Delta, what you'll find is that their sales are at all-time record highs, and people don't want to stay home and watch Netflix anymore. They want to go out and travel. Hey, Kurt Flirt says, Tom, I canceled my subscription like 3 years ago due to the price. Aaron says, hello, brother. Good to see you, Aaron. Liminal says, I can't find anything of value on Netflix. Yeah, I mean, we've been hearing that excuse a lot. No content on Netflix. Here is Salesforce Tower right here. Oh, everybody, just a quick update. So I am going to give a complete review, and usually I never review products or anything like that, and you know me, I really don't like credit cards or anything, but I will be reviewing the brand new Gemini credit card, where when you spend money on your personal expenses, you could actually earn cash back in Bitcoin. So I will be doing a full review for Gemini. If you want to read that review, if you type !news, N-E-W-S, in the chat, I will be reviewing Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss's new product that came out of Gemini, which is a cryptocurrency exchange where you can earn cash back in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Yes, Layla, it is the Gemini card. So if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, so Twitter @WalksWallStreet, I will be writing a little bit of an excerpt in the Behind the Street newsletter, briefly reviewing the Gemini exchange as a whole and the card. I think what Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss are doing over there at Gemini is a really, really good and commendable thing. So this is something that I very seldom agree to reviewing things, but I will be reviewing this one. So please keep on the lookout for that, my friends. Gregory says, yes, Tom, Netflix is about 30-year-old movies that no one cared about. Jonathan Richards says, Netflix is just pushing their own original productions now. Big mistake. I think I agree with you, Jonathan. Hey, Brian is here. Good to see you, Brian. Wow, check out the Empire State Building tonight. Beautiful. Sarah, good to see you, Brian. Good to catch the stream. Hey, Flat Smack says, I never watch the news. I judge anyone who does. Interesting, Flat Smack. So very seldom do I watch the news. Anytime I get my news, it's really mainly off of YouTube or the Wall Street Journal, Investors Business Daily, or Barron's. I feel as if you have financial media content, it's kind of hard to fake financial media content than it is just regular content, because you have, regulations and things like that. But I'll give you guys one more look at this. I gotta get some water. Please stand by. Hey, Latrell says, how long does it take you to get home from the city? About 45 minutes. About 45 minutes. But everybody, if you want to read the Gemini review, go ahead and scan this QR code and it'll bring you to the link to the Behind the Street newsletter, which is a free financial newsletter that I write for everybody in the group. So feel free to scan the QR code and I will send it to you every single week. But this week at the bottom, we will be briefly reviewing that, talking a little bit more about cryptocurrencies as well. So just be on the lookout for that. And now that I've gotten a drink of water, we can continue uptown on 6th Avenue through 43rd Street. You know, since my battery is running low, we may make a left here. Wow, check this out. Great view of the Empire. Hey, Laura E, thank you for joining. Liminal, thank you for joining. Geeky Lawrence 2007 says, Tom, the problem with Disney, Warner Brother, Universal, and others pulled their shows and movies from Netflix over the last few years, and they haven't been able to make up for it. That's actually 100% true. So another sort of failed streaming service is CNN Plus. So just after, I think it was only after, what, a month of being on the air, CNN Plus has gained, I think, a little bit less than 100,000 subscribers. So CNN has invested over $300 million into the streaming service that they will be closing down. So it just really seems like streaming platforms and subscription services are getting a little bit too crowded and saturated. And I think we're seeing that with the shutdown or the closure of CNN Plus. Yeah, Laytha's like, Tom, they didn't even give CNN Plus a chance, in my opinion. You know, I think it was more from like a corporate oversight decision, because there's a lot of M&A activity that happened with Time Warner and Warner Brothers. But I mean, to your point, there wasn't a lot of people who signed up for it. There was not a lot of people who signed up for CNN Plus.
So many ideas, so many new things you would do.
Flat Smack says Paramount also has a good streaming service. Hey, Fraser McLeod says, hi Tom, Tesla is a software heavy company. Would that not interest Microsoft and Gates? I mean, you would think, and that's why it's sort of surprising that Bill Gates allegedly has a very, very big short position on Tesla, which I think is the number one thing that is sort of sparking this Elon Musk, Bill Gates feud. I'm not sure if you guys are following it on Twitter, but I wouldn't say really an all-out feud. I would say more of like a cynical performance, maybe from Elon Musk, making some memes about Bill Gates, but hey, Miss Brown Eyes, that's a good point, Miss Brown Eyes with the Fire Stick. Very good point. So everybody, here we are, Times Square, but my favorite building, the NASDAQ right here. And oftentimes Investors Business Daily actually shoots their market wrap-up report right in this building here. British Grey, good piece of information. So British Grey says if you've signed up for CNN Plus, you will be getting your money back. Well, I mean, I would assume that, I would hope. But thank you for that, British Grey. So here is the main American flag here in Times Square. Sarah G, good to see you. Iowa Oak This is not a good time to try and charge people for news of the world. That's true. Hey, Checkers X, as they rushed that project before the Discovery merger, plug was pulled. Yeah, you're right. So that's what I've been reading a lot in the Wall Street Journal. Since there's a lot of changes that have been going on at CNN, they decided to pull the plug on it. Yeah, Latha says nobody really wants to pay more for bad news anyway. But everybody, tomorrow on the stream, we will, well, I'm not going to say we will. I really want to try to stream from the Upper West Side. So maybe we will start streaming from 83rd Street. I want to check out all of my old stomping grounds from when I used to work on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. So if you guys are not subscribed to the channel and you've liked the content tonight, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. And we will see you tomorrow. If you want to sign up for the free Behind the Street newsletter to learn more about investing in US equities, emerging markets, and Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, if you type !news, N-E-W-S, in the chat, click the link that the Nightbot will drop, and I will send you a free investing newsletter every single week. And that is a great way to support the channel for free. And we will see you all in the next one. And I'll leave you off with a beautiful view of the Hard Rock building, the U.S. Armed Forces recruiting station. And if you want to connect with us on Twitter, that is where I really do a lot of the one-on-one connection with a lot of the viewers on the streams and publish a lot of my equity research. You can follow us on Twitter at Walks Wall Street. And I'll see you guys in the next one. So Pacific Desert Raid. Very much appreciated. Thank you for joining. EO, all of our moderators, Penelope, thank you for joining. Eyeglass Lady, thank you for joining. The one and only Vinny Castellano, very much appreciated. Gregory, Samantha R, British Gray, Latha, thank you. DM, Otto, thank you so much. Appreciate it, Otto. Michelle McGraw, and the Mighty Bull. Andy is here from Korea, thank you so much. I'm trying to find where Penelope is. So Penelope, I'm gonna make you a mod just because I think we're running short on them. But yeah, so guys, I'll see you tomorrow. It's gonna be a big day. So tomorrow's stream is really gonna be the Markets a Look Ahead stream. We are going to be covering the entire week ahead of earnings. All the major tech companies, Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, they're all reporting earnings. We are gonna be doing a deep dive into the forecast on their revenue projections from a standpoint of AWS, Google Cloud, and the most important one, Amazon AWS. So I'll see you guys the next one. Into the Mighty Bull, have a good night wherever you are, because there is always a bull market somewhere, and you just need to know where to look. And I'll see everybody right back here tomorrow, and I will leave you off with the QR code that you can scan, and you can sign up for the newsletter for free. Be safe, everybody. I'll see you later.